In the intricate realm of South African politics, deception and survival often intertwine, forming tangled webs of ambition, power, and manipulation. This story is not merely about politics, it is a narrative of betrayal, credibility, and the relentless pursuit of dominance. At the heart of it lies a political earthquake, an explosive revelation that threatened to upend the carefully crafted image of one of the nation's most controversial and charismatic figures, Julius Malema. The headline alone, Mkhwanazi's bombshell, exposing Julius Malema's biggest lie, sent seismic shockwaves through the corridors of power. What unfolded was a saga that revealed not only the fissures within South Africa's political establishment but also the fragility of moral authority in a country yearning for integrity and leadership. The drama began in the high-stakes environment of a parliamentary ad hoc committee, established to investigate alarming claims of political interference and systemic corruption within the South African Police Service, SAPS. The inquiry became a national spectacle, capturing the attention of a weary public fatigued by endless corruption scandals and the steady decay of state institutions. Taking center stage was the Provincial Commissioner of SAPS in KwaZulu-Natal, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, a man known for his uncompromising integrity and reputation for speaking truth to power, even at great personal and professional risk. His testimony was a bombshell, a series of detailed allegations that pointed to political meddling, the protection of criminal syndicates, and the deliberate sabotage of key investigations, including those related to political assassinations. Among the implicated figures was former Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, whom Mkhwanazi accused of consistent interference in police operations. His revelations struck at the very heart of state authority, igniting outrage and reviving demands for accountability from a public long desensitized to tales of corruption. Mkhwanazi emerged as a rare figure of credibility, a man whose clarity and courage spoke to a nation desperate for truth. Into this volatile mix stepped Julius Malema, the fiery leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, known for his sharp rhetoric, dramatic flair, and ability to transform any political proceeding into a theater of confrontation. In the early stages of the inquiry, Malema presented himself as Mkhwanazi's ally, a fearless revolutionary standing shoulder to shoulder with a whistleblower exposing the rot within government ranks. His fiery cross-examinations of the former minister went viral, painting him as a crusader for justice willing to challenge the establishment. Malema's message resonated. Unlike the corrupt ruling elite, he claimed to embody integrity and truth. His political brand was built on moral purity, a leader untainted by greed or state capture, championing a revolutionary movement immune to compromise. For years, he nurtured this image of incorruptibility, positioning the EFF as the righteous alternative to the morally bankrupt establishment. But as Mkhwanazi's testimony deepened, the narrative began to shift in unexpected ways. His revelations broadened beyond one party or faction, implicating a wider ecosystem of political complicity that transcended ideological lines. It was here that Malema's once unwavering support began to falter. Observers noticed a change in Malema's behavior. The same man who had demanded Mkhwanazi's testimony now appeared uneasy, raising procedural objections and questioning the admissibility of evidence. He argued that some of Mkhwanazi's statements could not be presented since they had already been submitted to the Nhlanhla Commission, an objection that, while cloaked in legal reasoning, seemed politically motivated. His sudden volte-face sparked suspicion. Why would a leader who claimed to champion truth and transparency seek to limit the testimony of a whistleblower exposing corruption? Analysts suggested that Malema's motives were not about procedural fairness but self-preservation. Mkhwanazi's testimony, it turned out, was too broad and too dangerous. It began to illuminate not only the failures of the ruling party but also the hidden connections and financial dealings that might implicate figures associated with Malema's own movement. The web of corruption was not neatly divided along party lines, it ensnared anyone who had benefited from political proximity. As the hearings continued, the once venerated image of Malema began to crack. He was no longer the fearless interrogator exposing corruption, he became part of the story itself. Investigative journalists started to uncover whispers of EFF-linked business interests, allegations of financial irregularities, and questionable state contracts benefiting individuals tied to his circle. The implication was devastating. The revolutionary purity Malema had long professed was, at least in part, an illusion. The public, once enthralled by his firebrand persona, began to question whether he was truly different from the establishment figures he so fiercely condemned. Behind the red beret and radical rhetoric, some began to see another politician ensnared by the very temptations of power he denounced. Mkhwanazi's testimony had not been designed to destroy Malema, but its ripple effects tore through the carefully maintained myth of moral exceptionalism. In refusing to compromise his truth, Mkhwanazi inadvertently exposed the contradictions of an entire political class. Those who sought to manipulate or contain his revelations, Malema included, found themselves implicated in the same culture of self-interest and opportunism. The irony was striking. The man who had built his career on demanding accountability was now perceived as obstructing it. Malema's interjections during the hearings grew increasingly defensive, his tone sharp and irritable. Commentators speculated that he feared the widening scope of Mkhwanazi's evidence would not only implicate his rivals but also undermine his own political narrative, the one that painted him as the incorruptible outsider. Each procedural objection and attempt to stall proceedings seemed to confirm these suspicions. For the first time, cracks appeared in his once impenetrable armor of authenticity. Public sentiment began to turn. Social media, once Malema's strongest echo chamber, filled with critical voices. Supporters who had cheered his fiery speeches and fearless questioning began to ask uncomfortable questions. If he stood for transparency, why was he trying to suppress testimony? If he believed in truth, why did he fear it? The disillusionment spread quickly. Mkhwanazi's bombshell had accomplished something few political scandals ever achieve. It blurred the line between accuser and accused, between revolutionary and opportunist. As the inquiry neared its conclusion, the damage to Malema's credibility was evident. Even if no direct corruption was proven against him, his reaction to Mkhwanazi's revelations had eroded the foundation of his political brand. The perception that he was different from other politicians, a man of the people, uncorrupted by power, was shattered. The public saw in his actions the same self-preserving instinct that defined the political elite he claimed to oppose. Behind closed doors, reports emerged of growing tension within the EFF's leadership, particularly among those aligned with whistleblowers and law enforcement reform advocates. Some insiders whispered that Mkhwanazi's testimony had disrupted hidden networks of influence reaching across party lines, networks that could embarrass even the most vocal anti-corruption figures. In the end, Malema's greatest wound was not inflicted by his enemies but by his own contradictions. His image, his most potent political weapon, was tarnished. For years, he had thrived on the perception of being the fearless voice of the oppressed, unafraid to challenge power. Now, that very image was collapsing under the weight of hypocrisy. Mkhwanazi's courage to speak truth to power had inadvertently pierced the heart of Malema's mythology. The hearings may have concluded, but the questions they raised continued to echo across the nation. Was Julius Malema truly the revolutionary he claimed to be, or merely another player in South Africa's endless game of political survival? The bombshell had not resulted in arrests or resignations, but its impact was far more profound. It forced South Africans to confront an uncomfortable truth, that the battle against corruption is not a simple struggle between good and evil, but a constant fight against the seductive nature of power itself. Every leader, no matter how righteous their rhetoric, is vulnerable to its corruption. Mkhwanazi's revelations left the country disillusioned but wiser. They exposed not just individual wrongdoing but a systemic malaise, a political culture built on the illusion of virtue. Malema's biggest lie was not a specific falsehood but a carefully constructed image of moral superiority, a narrative that placed him above the corruption he condemned. When that image cracked, it revealed the uncomfortable sameness that runs through the veins of all who seek power in a system riddled with compromise. In the end, Julius Malema's credibility did not collapse in a single moment of scandal, but through a slow unraveling of trust. The man who once inspired millions to believe in a new political dawn became a cautionary tale about the fragility of integrity in public life. Mkhwanazi did not destroy him with accusation or anger, he did it through truth. By refusing to bend or silence his testimony, he revealed that integrity, once lost, can never be fully regained. This saga stands as one of the most revealing episodes in South Africa's modern political history, a drama of celebrity politics, corruption, and the treacherous balancing act between revolutionary ideals and the realities of power. It reminds the nation that in politics, the greatest deception is not always found in lies, but in the illusion of purity. Julius Malema's downfall, if it can be called that, was not about criminal guilt but about credibility, the erosion of the one quality that sustains a leader's bond with the people. Mkhwanazi's bombshell did not just expose a man, it exposed a system and a truth too often ignored, that power, even in the hands of revolutionaries, is really innocent.